just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other.
Hey, Coach Josh, I am excited to sharpen the saw a little bit with you today. If I think back about all of our recordings so far, there's so many things that we come back to, and it's always so great to spend a bit of time with you and get deep into some principles and concepts, talk about some examples, have some fun, and just get a tiny little bit better. And my hope is that anyone watching and listening to this can take something away from it and do the same thing.
Absolutely. And just knowing that just having the conversation, we're going to get a little bit better just by conversing back and forth. So it's already a win. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to trust that, isn't it? If you show up and if you set up the situation where you're with someone that you know that you can pitch and catch with, someone that that and knowing that you are willing to go wherever you need to go, and it's pretty cool because it's the closest you can get to guaranteeing a good old time, grabbing some value.
Yeah, the best of both worlds. Let's have a good time. Let's grab some value today.
Yeah, I like that. Grab some value. That's cool. Go take it. Right. I like that because it suggests that there's always value to be had, which I believe for sure.
Value is in abundance. Just have to remove all the ways that the universe is trying to give us value.
Well, talk to me about that from your week. What's come out up to you in terms of your clients or other parts of your life that you've seen that it's kind of top of your mind right now over the last week or so? What can we dig into?
Yeah, isn't it interesting that things come up in themes or there's patterns that happen and we notice them if we're paying attention?
I completely agree, yeah.
It's kind of crazy how that works. And I think there's a reason for that. A, I'm looking for that, or maybe not looking for it, but connecting the dots. And B, I think I've reframed or retrained my mind that when I notice that with other people and it's in more than one place, that it's probably for me. It's probably for me to gain something from. So what I will say is I've noticed that finding the truth of what is actually going on when people come to these coaching sessions is utterly important, and if not the most important. And what that means for me is finding truth for myself. So any problems I'm perceiving having, or if I'm setting a goal that I have and am experiencing challenges or obstacles, what is the truth? What am I fearing? What do I feel? What do I not want to happen? Like getting to know the parts of the unconscious and making them conscious seems to be the biggest theme in my life right now.
I would say my reflection of that for you particularly is that, yes, that I would feel that that's been the theme for probably like more than a year, maybe, yeah, is doing that and going on that journey and making the unconscious conscious. Yeah. What would be your latest, biggest distinction on doing that?
The more that I've worked on this, the more bold I am in asking for what I really want. So I think I understood that as a coaching principle, even as recently as a year ago, or as far away as a year ago. But I've experienced it more now and have more. They say there's no substitute for experience, right? So I've seen in real time what it looks like to really ask for and go for what I want. And then the truth part comes in with like, well, what are all the stories that tell me I can't have that thing, or that it wouldn't be a good thing, or that I'm not good enough to have that thing? And I have like a new perspective on that. We could probably pick out an episode from a year ago where I had a similar conversation with you. but it feels different now. It feels like a different game. It feels like the stakes are higher.
The stakes are higher because you're bolder in the ask.
I think so. And I'm more connected with an ideal outcome that I previously may have considered impossible. And now it's exciting to me, genuinely exciting.
So the combination of being bolder in the ask because you actually say what you want to say, which uncovers things, and then that in itself makes it actually more exciting to go and do the thing because you want the outcome anyway. Whereas before it was somewhere there, but because it wasn't actually what you wanted, you didn't have enough juice to follow through on the action to get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would add there's a proof of concept that the process works now.
Okay. Yeah.
And so maybe previously I would have bumped up into those challenges, been like, oh, there's proof. I can't have it. And what I've learned is, well, no, that's actually exactly what I need to solve in order to get what I want. And it's just asking me to go a level deeper, go a level higher in my consciousness to be able to solve for that thing.
Yeah. Because if you ask the thing that's the leap, you are currently not at the place to get that thing.
Correct.
And so if it does not present a challenge or a roadblock along the way, it means you are not growing because of it. Therefore, it's likely the thing you don't want. Sorry, it's likely not the thing that you want.
Yeah, it actually has to come up, right? If I'm doing it right, that's the storming part of the
Yeah.
form,
Right.
storm, norm, perform.
Yeah. I'm experiencing the version of that for myself right now. Is intriguing with the group work that I'm doing. I expected it to flow a certain way, but it's not, and it's just not bad, not good, just different. And it's just exactly that reminder that, well, this is what I set out to do, and I said it was a significant difference if I do it, and just go and do it. And the fact that it's a challenge, just all that does is reinforce that I'm doing the right thing.
Mm. Yeah, you've reached the challenge part of the process. That was all part of the plan originally anyway.
Yeah, because it's who you become at the end of it, not what you get or the goal anyway. And so yeah, it can be so I can get how frustrating that could be to hear, and it's like, oh, just tell me what to do, right? But it you can have someone tell you what to do, but you won't do it because you haven't experienced it in the way. So like it's continual chicken and egg, right? That's why everything's a cycle. Even the cycles within cycles, not to get too complex, right? But like it really does feel like that. Where it's like you've got to go around, experience it in that way. I think the goal is to try experience. I mean, the goal is just try to experience things without killing yourself, right? Or prevent, or essentially just be able to keep playing the game. That's why I always say you got to optimize for playing the game, not for how good you are playing the game. Because that's the if you always can get a seat at the table, you can always get better. You always have another chance.
Bingo. So, what do you notice about continually going to the next level? Does the game change? Do you get better at playing the game? Does it always feel the same because we're elevating the type of game that we're playing? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I believe that the pieces and the parts are always the same, but what you make is different. Where you talk about the AAA approach of awareness, action plan, and achievement, those are always in function. It's like that's the cycle. But what they look like and constitute is often different. There's always an awareness of where am I and what do I really want. And what most time happens is people jump off from that directly to the action plan and start going, but they do it too early because we know that clarity equals power. That clarity allows you to move forward. And so as you're figuring out that clarity, as soon as you get a tiny little piece of clarity, you want, oh, I got it. And then you go. You got to hold back. You got to make sure that whole window is clear, not just the bottom left corner. You got back to see through the whole thing. And then I've done a lot of vision work in the last few weeks with clients. And it never ceases to amaze me, Coach. there's so many things that just pop up time and time and time again. So no matter how often I say it, and obviously the more I do it, the more I sharpen my saw as to how I describe and share examples of what a good version of it looks like. And at the same time, each version is completely different, so it's up to them what it looks like. But best practices of what's in there, just writing a vision. The biggest piece happens every time is that I write a vision, we give it a 3-year arbitrary timeline, and the vision is written from today's perspective, which is prevailing wisdom. But you want to write a vision from the vision perspective. Just today, it was I'm happy. I'm happy in my job, and I hope I'm still at the same company. It's like, well, it's your vision. And then she also said to me, You might notice I changed a couple of things around because I didn't think they were realistic. And that's okay, but oftentimes when people say they're not realistic, what they really mean is that they're scared of it, or they haven't actually validated against what actually needs to happen in order to go get that thing.
Yeah, and that's maybe where I let off today. But that's the being truthful and honest with yourself. Well, like, why do you think that's not realistic, or where is that coming from? What voice is that? Who's telling you that? And you ultimately get to a core truth that is more of a lie, if you will. You get to a fear or a self-doubt that is not true, but at least you've identified it. And my aha in these last couple of weeks, maybe a month or two, is sometimes it's just the awareness of it is the victory. You don't have to do anything. I mean, there's more action to take after that, but the calling out of what the truth is a step that most people don't even get to.
It's just being dirt honest with yourself, not with other people, with yourself. Yeah,
right.
That's what happens most of the time.
Is that they are, or that they don't get there?
They don't get there,
right.
But it's not. Of course, it's not. So the wrinkle for me here is to call it honesty with a caveat, because being honest. Well, no, you didn't say that honest. You said truthful. Being truthful or honest, I suppose that's a conflation for me. But maybe sometimes it's thought about like that. I guess truthful and honesty for me implies that we're lying about something. Mm. Just because you're not being truthful or honest doesn't mean you're lying about something, meaning you're not doing it on purpose. I think that's a big distinction. If someone says you're lying, like someone says you're lying, you're like that's not nice. Someone says, tell me the real truth. Like, I am telling you the real truth. And they believe it's the real truth. And so it's helpful for me to think of it not in that language and just change it a little bit as well. And to play with it. It's like that I understand that that's what it feels like for you. But tell me, explain why that's the case, right? Because if we think something is true, then it's true, right? We believe it's true. And if we believe it's true, that's the ground that we stand on, and we don't want to rock the ground that we stand on. I think it's really important to think about that. Like, let's just check in. Let me show you a different angle, such that now you've got a contrast, context, or scale difference, which allows you to see something you didn't see before without me calling you a liar.
Yeah.
So in that example, I said, well, okay, well, if you didn't think you think it was realistic, is it that you didn't think it was realistic, or did you work it out? Did you do the checks and balances? And the example I gave was ridiculous, right? Just the first thing that came to my mind was, and the more ridiculous, the better, right? If I decided in the next 3 years that I wanted to make $1 billion in the oil industry, I couldn't guarantee that. No one could guarantee that I could do that. It's quite a big ask. And you might say that's not realistic. And then you might say, well, hang on. Well, what realistic, not realistic? If it had to happen, how would it happen? Well, immediately what I know would have to be true is that I'd have to completely blow up my life and move somewhere, do something. I have no idea. But I know that type of gravity of impact is going to completely blow up my life, which means I have to not spend any time with or not see my family. Like, so completely non-negotiable. So not that it's not realistic, but it's not that I'm even just thinking about it for 30 seconds. I know that I wouldn't be prepared to do anything that it would take to do that. So it's just like a non-starter. But it's not that it's not realistic necessarily. It's just, it doesn't matter whether it is or not. I just wouldn't be prepared to blow my life up that would need to happen even to move a few steps towards that.
Right. Which is what you said earlier. You need to, like, when you set goals, you become a version of yourself that is worthy of that, right? So your identity has to change by nature of wanting something that you don't have. You'll be a different person by the time you receive it. And so with the oil example, you don't want to be that person, right? So that's why it's important to set goals or have a vision of a person that you are in love with, or like you desire to be a better version of yourself because of having achieved that goal. Because then that's the draw, right? Then that's the exciting part. That's what gets you through the challenges of like, oh, I've hit the roadblock. For your example, I have to move and not see my family. Nope. Well, if I want something in my business, then it might mean whatever, right? I got to work an extra 2 hours a week. I got to schedule an extra 4 appointments a week. Whatever that is, are you willing to do that? And that's really what the barriers ask you is, are you ready to take on this new identity to achieve what you think you want?
Yeah. Yes, now you've got to actually think like this person to get around this barrier. Because as you think right now, you're not going to get the answer to this equation, this puzzle. So you have to go and be that person for a second to get the answer here. And then you'll know, you'll get a flash of being that person.
And that's how it starts, because then eventually you embody the behaviors of that and the thought processes of that person more and more often. It starts with the first time. It starts with one.
And that's also why it can be scary to think about being something, because when you think about being something different, the next version of yourself, that's a leap. It can feel really energizing, but it can also feel like it's a huge, big thing. Because in your current version, doing the other one like that would just wipe you out because it's just too much. But to know that once you are that person, doing that thing is not going to draw the same sort of energy. It's like when we first started coaching, we got one coaching client. It's a half an hour call. You spend 3 hours prepping and 3 hours debriefing. You've got 6.5 hours into this one call, and you're just absolutely elated and tired and like, oh, I just can't do anything else. It's like, that's it. And then 3 months down the line, you're doing 6 calls back to back, and it's just, you just go and get some lunch.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I possibly do that again? As you said, Coach, the first one, and the first one at that level is then the real test to say, I want to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't find out until you do that, the big thing.
Right.
Whatever that big thing might be.
Well, and you just pointed out another key principle that we've talked about before, the gain part of the gap in the gain, right? Like to look back, and I've done this before. I've gone to wanting or spending 6 hours on a single coaching call to going back to back 6 in a row. And I've become a different person. I've become that person now. And look at all I've overcome. It was hard. It doesn't feel hard now because I'm already there. I'm already doing it. I'm already practicing it. It's hard to remember sometimes how hard it is of the things that we've already accomplished. Isn't that crazy?
And it's also the juice to get us to do the next thing. Do you really remember how bad that was at that time when it was like that much? You got to do that version of that now, but it won't be like that forever, because think about how that easy thing feels now. Anything you've accomplished, you just look back and say, like, what's the one thing that I've got now? Not the one thing. What's any of the things that I've got now that are just part of my life all the time? But at one point, I didn't think was possible.
Yep.
And that's all the evidence you should need to know that you can accomplish and get the thing that you're looking for now.
Bingo. And to know that, like, the pain or fear, maybe they're interchangeable in this example or the way I'm using it, is meant as the crossroads, right? So are you going to burrow through this, or are you going to go back to where you were? And I think it's easier for me to process that if I know it's temporary. It feels permanent when it's in it. Oh, this is going to be this way forever.
That's
This
my
is
point.
freaking
Yeah.
hard, and it's going to be there all the time. No, it's not. You have evidence that you just move to it and then through it, and you're out the other side.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I think that's what prevents people like, oh, I can do that all the time. It's like, well, it wouldn't feel like that all the time.
Right. Yes.
That's why in a pain pleasure scale, right, the goal is not to be at 10 out of 10 pleasure all the time. Because if you were at 10 out of 10 pleasure all the time, that by default would not be 10 out of 10 pleasure. Because it'll be just normal, right? And sometimes it'll feel great, sometimes it'll feel medium. But yeah, you can't have 10 out of 10 all the time because just by the very nature of that would become not so.
This is good stuff. All right. So, I feel like, and there's nothing wrong with this, but we've talked about all of this and maybe in different episodes in the past, but we kind of wrapped it all up in a bow and maybe have more principles here than usual. What aren't we thinking about? What is a new way to think about this? Or what is a different angle? Or what is something that is a value takeaway that is more difficult to take away than what we've already mentioned?
Who's it for? If I were to put it into a place of like direct it to something specific, I can maybe I could direct it to myself. I don't know, 8 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
One of the principles that got me through as a starting point was massive action is the cure-all. And it's essentially a version of what we talk about here. But the message is that just keep looking for more evidence that you've done these things before. Because we don't tend to look for it, then therefore we don't tend to find it or keep seeing it, right? Because just like we start to wrap it back up to the top, coach, things come up in themes. Things come up in themes partly because of the reticular activating system in our mind. We're primed to see those things, so we see more patterns. So I'd go back and tell myself that yes, massive action is a cure-all, but just see where else you've done that, and then you've got more evidence that you can do it again. Plus, you'll start seeing more and more patterns, and that sharp. Believe it even more.
Love that. I'm going to build on that. So you kind of went like in a past, like where's the evidence that I've been here before? I think what I would like to start doing is that whenever I get to a really hard point, capture it somewhere, document it. And maybe I start like a document that has all the examples and I just start adding to it to show maybe how long it was between my first experience of something really challenging and hard that I'm coming up against, and then the moment where I feel like I've broken through or I've reached the next level. Because that is more direct and even recorded evidence, and it's in real time instead of going back. Not that there's anything wrong. I think I want to do that too, but I want to start documenting it in real time as I move forward as well.
I think that'd be very powerful, Coach. On that note,
bam, 199. See you next time.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction, so please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.